Hello, listeners. Welcome to No Limits, Episode 3, a PlayStation podcast, presented by Save the Game Media. I'm your host, Taylor, and my co-hosts, Brianna and Sam, are with me today.
Hello.
Remember, you can find this podcast over on youtube.com/SaveTheGameMedia every Tuesday. And while you're over there, make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you'd rather listen to audio or on all of your favorite podcast services, and would love if you would please drop a 5-star review. It helps us out with the algorithm and all that jazz. If you would like to talk to us on the daily or send in questions, check out our Discord. Link is in the show notes. You can also send your questions over at Twitter at Save Game Media, not Save the Game Media, but Save Game Media, one word, because Twitter hates me. And finally, if you want to support us and get early access to all the Save the Game Media content, including shows like Project X Talk, Frame by Frame, I Hate My Friends, please go over to patreon.com/SaveTheGameMedia and choose the tier that's right for you. Just like our current patrons, Hopple, Bucky Blue, and Alpaca Tom. So with that said, how are we doing today, guys?
I'm very warm. As a Brit, we are not acclimatized to warm weather. We like drizzle, we like dark, damp, rain, grey clouds, overcast. And we've got a week of very, very, very warm weather. So I'm not okay right now, unfortunately.
Sorry.
Taylor. But I'm happy to be here. That's the main thing.
It's not like the heat coming from your PlayStation is helping.
Yeah. See, I've committed to doing that every week now. And I feel like I can't make that excuse. As much as maybe it probably would make sense to turn it off. I'm going to keep it there for the aesthetic.
Gotcha. Nice.
I appreciate that.
What about you, Brie, with your new mic?
Well, I have, my new mic. You can't see it, but it's like right here.
She has an Elgato Wave 3, for those wondering.
Mm-hmm.
The white version.
Yes, we got the white version.
Kevin doesn't,
gonna
and he's
be
mad
mad
about it. Yeah.
It's very pretty. It looks really nice with my PlayStation, so I'm enjoying that. Other than that, I'm happy to be back in California. I love Utah, but it was like 100 degrees plus.
Yeah, routinely 39 Celsius, Sam, in Utah.
Mm.
And dry.
Would love to be there, I'm sure. Very briefly.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually have a weather-related story that's, I don't know, just happened to me like Friday, and it was so odd. I feel compelled to share, especially with, global warming being in the news again, shockingly. So I was driving home from my folks on Friday night, and it started raining, kind of pouring around 8:45 p.m. And I was like on the highway, and it just started pouring for like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes.
Mm.
And then when I got to a certain location, it stopped nearly immediately, and the road ahead of me was completely dry. Not one speck of moisture.
Mm.
I've never been on the border, quote unquote, border of a storm before. I thought it was more gradual as supposed to be, but it was in the span of 10 seconds, pouring to no rain, and the road in front of me was dry, and I thought I was like seeing things. I'm like, no, how's it? It's not dry. What the hell's going on?
Glitch in the Matrix.
Yeah, and it was. I went right through the outer border of a thunderstorm, and
yeah, it's so crazy when you get like right at the edge of those storms.
I've just never done that. Yeah. That's a thing, though, I guess. Now that you're bringing it up, I assume you've been through it, Bree and Sam.
Oh, yeah. The worst was when I was surprisingly in Arizona. We went during monsoon season for an indoor percussion competition. And we were outside with all of our drums and everything, and just a wave of like the most insane rain just like drenched everything within seconds. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, over here, like, especially because I live very rurally, there's not really anything to obstruct my view for miles in pretty much every direction. So whenever there is a storm, I can typically, not all the time, I can typically see the cutoff point. Whether that's directly over me is a different point, but I can see. It's very, very bizarre seeing rain at a distance when it's not raining where you are. It just looks sort
Yeah.
of like this hazy mist thing, and it can come on you like within seconds, like you say.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, very, very bizarre.
Yeah.
So you know how like in stories like they're like dramatically the one person has the cloud over them? That could theoretically happen then, I guess.
Well, when you're in the
Yeah.
shower, you've created a cloud. The
Right.
steam, if you're taking a hot shower, you're condensing water right above you. That is scientifically the direct definition of a cloud. We're condensed water that's being redistributed as moisture coming back down.
I really enjoy that. I am forever going to say that now.
Yep.
I'm gonna go take a rain or something.
Take a rain. There you go. And what else? What else have you guys been playing? If anything.
There's only a couple of things. I'm still, doing my weekly routine, delving into the PlayStation Plus catalog. Lovely little, very short indie game called Virginia, based on the state in the US.
Yes.
I think it's a state.
It's a state.
Okay. Yeah, the way I would define it is if Playdead, as in the developers of Limbo, Inside, if they made a first-person X-Files game.
Was it developed by them, or is this just an analogy?
No, I think it was developed by them.
Let's
I
see.
might be misinterpreting. I think that Playdead is the name of the studio that created those titles.
It was developed by Variable State, who are
Oh,
former devs who made it from DeepMind Technologies.
interesting. So maybe it's a publisher. Playdead does say, I've just looked up, it does say Inside and Limbo, so maybe they are publishers or co-devs, something potentially.
But anyway,
but yeah, sort of a very artsy kind of very vague narrative speaking X-Files title. Not licensed IP or anything, but very much in that vein in terms of tone and where the story goes. That was really enjoyable, like quite a nice surprise personally. And then the only other thing I've been delving into is, or trying to get into, I should say, is Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker
Saga. There you go.
Been giving that a go because I loved the Lego games as a kid, and this one is something that I've been meaning to get to since it came out, and this week is the week. It's quite nice. A lot to do, like so much to do, but almost too much. But it's nice. It's a bit of a nostalgia trip.
There you go. Well, like you having so much to do, I played a little bit of Halo, but this past week I've mostly been playing, well, over the past few days, more Breath of the Wild. I'm 80 hours in. I don't think I'm even 60% of the way through for what I want to do in the game. So, like, to give you guys some perspective, that's a long time in a game for me, let alone not even being close to finishing yet. But I've been slowly playing the game over the past, like, 4 or 5 years, and I'm still at it. I'm just, exploring every region, trying to find shrines, going around on my huge horse. It's a lot of very special moments in that game when it comes to discovery, and I'm still finding that, even though I'm very much an opponent to mostly open world games. Breath of the Wild I've kind of turned around on in a lot of ways. I can't take it in really high dosages, like I can't play it for 2 weeks straight, but sometimes I just get on and I get lost for a few days, and then I don't touch it for a couple months, and then I come back. That's kind of been the cycle, but it's kind of crazy, and it also takes my mind away from performance, I got new GPU, all about the frames. Then I go play Breath of the Wild that runs at like 30 FPS on a good day, but it's it's still taken away by the environment and things to do. So it's a little humbling playing that. And I've also watched, not a game, but I watched the movie for the first time, The Evil Dead, Sam Raimi's original work from 1981. I really enjoyed it. I thought some of the camera shots were extremely creative and unique and interesting. And I hope to watch the sequel in the near future. But yeah, that's what I've been doing.
That sounds fun. I am so sad to say that I didn't play any games this week.
It's okay.
The reason I'm so sad about it is because I specifically bought Chicken Police to play on the plane.
Chicken Police.
Yeah. It's downloaded on my Switch, ready to go, and then I realized that there was no way for me to play on the plane because the way I play is I just have the console and then I have like a separate controller because my Joy-Cons stopped working forever ago.
What do you mean stopped? Okay.
Like the things that click on the Joy-Cons or whatever, they just don't work.
The Joy-Con rails to click into the Switch?
No, like the actual things.
They just stopped working?
Yeah,
No
so
drift,
I could replace them, but like I already
wow.
have like a regular controller.
Oh, what
and
I do?
It's fine to play with,
right?
Except for like on the plane.
Yeah. For something like that, it's a solution for what you're saying already exists. It's a product called the Fixture S1, and it clamps onto your Pro controller, and then the other side clamps onto your Switch tablet. So then you can basically play your Switch is right below your eyes, and below your Switch is your controller right under it. It's basically how you have a mic arm to a desk. This is effectively a Switch arm to your controller.
Interesting.
So if you just Google Fixture S1 or look it up on Amazon, it's there.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up. Anyways, yeah.
I also prefer to play with the Pro controller. It's an incredible controller and probably one of my all-time favorites. That is a far, far, far cry from the Joy-Cons.
I'll be honest, I don't think mine's a Pro controller. I think it's an off-brand.
It's okay. No, it's okay. Power A, whatever it is.
But yeah, I freaking love the controller. I love the Switch in general, but yeah, I was pretty bummed I didn't get to play. However, what I did do this week was I tried to get a bunch of people addicted to the show Heartstopper. I don't know if anybody has watched that.
Is that an anime or a show?
No, it's not an anime. Aren't you so proud of me? It is just like a live action regular TV show based on a comic by Alice Osman, I think is how you say her last name. It's just about like these two boys meeting in an all boys school, and it's like a rugby player and like a nerd, and
they're platonic.
No.
Platonic.
It is definitely a romance show, but it's the fluffiest romance, and it'll just
that's good.
Make your heart feel so good. So highly recommend it to everyone. But then I watched like the first episode like 3 times this week because I was trying to get it. Like whoever I was hanging out with, I was like, "Oh, we should watch this show."
Trying to indoctrinate. There you go.
It's the gay agenda.
Indoctrinating the gay agenda, Brie. God damn it!
I know.
It's okay.
The Tap Water's already doing it for me, so.
We love all our LGBTQ pals. Nice. Cool. Yeah. So, with that said, let's swerve into the news. So, first, Sony has completed their acquisition of Bungie. This deal was announced in January 2022, but Sony and Bungie finally closed the deal. And yeah, now it's official. Put a ring on it. They put the ring on it.
Hooray.
So there we go. And this comes from VGC.
Ring on it. Seriously.
Hooray. I'm to be like serious, like I really don't know how to feel about this. Like I think it's a good get. Like Bungie are very clearly a very talented developer.
Right.
Destiny has only really been improving. Not that I play it, but it's been improving. Expansion upon expansion, content drop upon content drop. And the thing I guess it's just that I don't know what this deal actually looks like at the end of the day. That is the thing that I'm struggling to clamp onto.
Right.
Like, it's staying multi-platform.
Yeah, so Bungie said they wanted to keep their autonomy in development. What I assume happens is Sony gets a lot of good rights to PR, a cut of marketing, stuff like that. And also, what I assume will happen is since Destiny 2 is free to play, there'll be PlayStation Plus perks in the pipeline for subscribers, whether it's only premium or extra and premium or even essential, although I doubt they'd offer to essential. I assume, some limited access or access for a limited time, or maybe even full access to some of the latest Destiny 2 expansions. They might cut a deal with on Bungie to leverage the revenue from those promotions. That's what I think happens with Bungie. Also, it's good for Sony just to have another fantastic developer, under their wing, especially in context of first-person shooters, right? Bungie right now with Destiny 2 is widely considered the best modern FPS for many people. Like, people say the gunplay is exquisite, and if Bungie makes a single-player adventure or another shooter that isn't Destiny 2 in the next few years, Sony might also try to leverage that or contract them an exclusive, not contract, internally put them on an exclusive FPS or maybe for a single player game. I don't know. I think that's what Sony has to take from the offer, or not from the offer, from the acquisition.
Yeah, and also just like Bungie having, I guess, live service expertise, if you want to phrase it as expertise, or experience, should I say, more so than any other PlayStation first-party studio by a country mile. So I guess, PlayStation, Sony in general have said that they want to branch out into more live service multiplayer titles, and Bungie is a hell of a feather to have in your cap if you're making those kind of decisions for your future. So.
Yeah. They know how to do it, quote unquote, right.
Mm-hmm.
What we've seen. Thoughts, Brie?
No, I honestly, I'm so far removed from Bungie. I know of them, and obviously they're a huge name, but I'm just not really in the realm of any of those games.
Yeah.
So as far as acquisition, I mean, it's kind of hard to say exactly what you guys said. Where is it going? Especially if they're not really PlayStation can't get too many exclusives. Maybe they'll get some exclusive skins or something like that. But I mean, it's hard to say where it's really going to go because they can't just have a fully exclusive game. It could be something where we're looking at an exclusive game really far in the future.
Yeah. 6 years, 5 years, 7 years.
Yeah, so they're just starting development on a brand new game right now kind of thing, and that will only release on PlayStation. But other than that, I'm not really sure what it could be. So unfortunately, don't have too many thoughts.
Yeah. So
I mean, they said that they wanted to bring, I think that they are working on a new IP launching before 2025, I think was the plan.
Okay.
I almost, and this has only really just come to me, maybe it's kind of like a Bethesda situation, where they say that everything is, or in inverse, should I say?
No, I feel like it's different because Bungie explicitly came out and said we will continue to make our games multi-platform and kind of do what we want developmentally. Bethesda did not come out with that statement. And
yeah, but in terms of so I guess an inverse whereby Bethesda have said that the assumption is Starfield future titles will be Microsoft exclusive, at the very least timed, and Bungie is saying yes, we're going to keep everything multi-platform, but does that just mean for things like Destiny 2?
Right.
And if they do release another multiplayer title where they would like crossplay to be a thing, but then if they do, like you say, maybe do a single player title down the line, maybe that is exclusive, and they can find leeway in how they phrase things now
Yeah,
they're gonna
that's
get
what I'm
backlash
wondering
then.
is like if they want to do like a story-based game that's just like single player or maybe has a multiplayer mode or something like that. But I mean, I don't really know what that would look like, but I'm interested.
Yeah. And Bree, what other acquisition was on the horizon here?
Can you believe it? It's freaking crazy. They've been having a crazy week. So Sony has completed their acquisition of Haven Entertainment. The deal was announced previously, but it's like officially going through.
Yeah, I don't know why this
Woo.
is news. I'm gonna be honest. I
Give
think
them that
it's
money.
the amount of coverage has been so. This deal has been ridiculously overrepresented in games media, and I think it's stupid because Haven hasn't shown us anything of what Jade Raymond is working on at Haven is still behind closed doors, and there's no games that have come out of this studio yet. It's one of those things where I don't want to hear about it until you show me some gameplay or at the very least a teaser trailer on what is it, a multiplayer title Haven's working on, correct? Yeah. So I guess I'm a bit jaded by that, but
Hey.
they just oh wait, that was not pun intended, but I guess let's just say it was, baby. So but yeah, I like the Bungie acquisition. Sony finally just put pen to paper and another ring on it. So and this deal was announced in March of this year. So
I mean, the thing is you have to assume that they're seeing something on their end that it has to be worth the money, right? Like
right.
PlayStation isn't just gonna like
I just
throw
wish that
their
was
money out,
public
but
already.
yeah,
At least for
for
your
sure.
shareholders, right? Sony's yeah.
I mean, the only thing that is mentioned in the article is that they're working on a persistent and evolving online title, so live service. And they have explicitly said, or one of the founders of the studio said, that they want it to also be a social platform, the likes of which we haven't seen before. Now,
What, like
that
the
sounds like
metaverse?
PR talk to me,
Yeah.
They're
but
making like Facebook crossed with like Halo.
Metaverse. They want it like it sounds like metaverse. That's what it sounds like.
yeah, they must have seen something, and I agree that it should be something, at least give an allusion to what it is rather than just saying it's a multiplayer title. But I can only imagine that it's also like the name recognition of Jade Raymond, which I think is ill-informed because, not to slant her or anything, but I don't think she's been particularly relevant in the past decade.
No.
Obviously, she's major in terms of the history of the games industry, but I'm not sure that she's proven herself in sort of a 2022 landscape.
No. She doesn't have the type of name recognition that Hideo Kojima would, or
Exactly.
Cory Barlog would, or an Amy Hennig, or Shigeru Miyamoto. A bit lower on the totem pole here, and I think I need to see some proof here of good stuff.
Kind of feels like PlayStation have just kind of betted that this title they like
might.
the look of, but they bet that they're hoping that it pays off, and that yes, now they're already first party, so we've got them already.
Just kind of like throwing it out there just because I think it would be interesting. But I can't remember the name of the game, but I think it's like VR something, but it's like the VR game where you can like interact with people, and it's like almost like a social media game. I can't remember the name of it right now, but basically you run around as like a character, but you're just talking to people based on proximity. You can go in rooms and talk to people and stuff like that. So I wonder, like, because that could be like they could do some sort of like game mixed with something like that. Just throwing it out there.
That almost sounds like an MMO. No, that kind of social atmosphere to it. I don't know.
I mean, I don't think MMOs have done well. I should.
Final Fantasy 14.
I was gonna say
exactly.
I play hundreds of hours. I've got like last time I checked, like over 1,000 hours of Final Fantasy 14. So
yeah, it'd be interesting to see whether like having a first, if it does interestingly end up being an MMO, whether the fact that it is first party entices people that maybe wouldn't have gone for an MMO on console otherwise into trying it out, because there is this kind of thing where Sony fans will typically be more inclined to try first party titles than any other, because there is this indicative presumption that there is this level of quality coming from first party. So maybe that's something they could go for if it does end up being a more MMO kind of experience.
Yeah. I don't know.
For
It's
sure.
so open-ended.
Yeah, it definitely is. Also, the name of the game is VR Chat, just in case.
And Sam, key us in on this new loyalty program? PlayStation All Stars
Phew.
Battle Royale. What's it called?
When I saw the tweet, that for a split second, I got so excited, and unfortunately, this isn't anywhere near as exciting, in my opinion. But PlayStation is introducing a new loyalty program later this year called PlayStation Stars. It's a free-to-join program, and essentially it kind of acts as, I don't know what the equivalent is called on Xbox.
Microsoft Rewards.
That's it, yeah.
So they just call Microsoft Rewards, yeah.
Where you complete in-game activities, and as you do so, you'll sort of over time accumulate rewards. They typically spin these things that you will earn rewards far faster than you actually do. But that's just the nature of these kind of, especially because it's free to join and whatnot. It's not, part of a subscription or whatnot. But it involves winning tournaments, which I assume is like only with online games, whether they hold in-game tournaments with specific online games.
Yeah, I guess maybe Destruction All Stars tournament. I don't know what tournaments.
I mean, Sony and Epic have like quite a tight partnership, so maybe there's
Fall Guys
things
or
as
Fortnite.
well, and yeah,
probably with that. Warzone, Apex.
Very true. Yeah. Also, if you earn specific trophies in games, and they clarified this, that if you are the first person to platinum a game within your local time zone, that is
category
a specific thing that will earn you presumably a fair chunk of these stars, I guess is what the currency is.
It's like 1 star.
Yeah, just one.
They're like, you rushed for one.
Yeah, but I feel like that would be game reviewers who get the game early could just do this weeks earlier.
Is like, part of me is like, oh no, because we won't typically have access pre-release. But for me specifically, because I work for IGN and I do a lot of like pre-release coverage of things, I might have a bit of an in here, so I'm also kind of
sounds like just leave it in.
And then the points that you accumulate can either be redeemed as funds for your PlayStation Store online wallet, or if you want to buy specific products on the PlayStation Store that isn't that store, but the online store where you can buy like merch and things like that, you can discount products.
I thought it was PlayStation.
You can't, yeah. Like, I guess the wallet funds.
I know, but I still figured those discounts. I'm surprised the discounts are on non-game.
I will double check. I guess it kind of would make sense for it to be both, now that I think about it. I just don't know whether they have actually. Points can be redeemed in a catalog that may include PSN wallet funds and select PlayStation Store products.
So maybe for certain games, if they're running a promotion.
Okay, yeah, no, I've just double checked an additional article, and they have, not in the blog post that we've linked in our show notes, but they have said that it is for both that PlayStation Store and the merchandise store.
For audio listeners, when he says that PlayStation Store, he's referring
to I'm pointing
the game
towards
storefront
my PlayStation
that you can access on your console.
Yes. So interesting, like very weird move for PlayStation. And then I will actually throw this in just before we open up discussion. Digital collectibles. They are also apparently involved and can be earned. And they had to pretty much immediately come out and clarify that these are not, in fact, NFTs.
Damn it.
I appreciate the clarification so much.
Sorry, guys. I'm
honestly,
not a crypto guy. Yeah, you prefer the
I'm so
clarification.
tired.
Well, trust me, they're not clarifying because they feel bad. They're clarifying it for PR to maximize profit because they know game players don't like NFTs on the whole. But yeah.
Yeah, I think like they said that digital collectibles actually, I don't know how this actually accumulates on a profile. Like, are they going to have an app where you can view your things that you've accumulated? Maybe
Steam has something a little similar to this called like Steam trading cards, which you can apparently sell to other users and stuff. I'm not entirely informed in the process, but Steam does have this digital collectible system involving those cards.
I am almost so. Is this anything similar to like what Nintendo eShop does as well, where you get like those coins for purchasing things, or
I
is
don't
it
think
just like
so. That's more credit than a collectible. Because
okay,
those
Mm.
coins can just the only use those coins have is either purchasing an item from the eShop or from the My Nintendo store.
hmm
They're not like digital trinkets or figurines or icons, so to speak.
okay, okay, sounds good.
This is it's just bizarre. Like I'm to clarify, sorry, I'm with the thing of, as you play through games, you steadily accumulate points that you can use to redeem and discount buying games. Like that's cool. Xbox have done that for a long time,
Yep.
and it's a cool program. But then, like having the first platinum a game in a time zone and the digital collectibles, it's just it reminds me a lot of Sony in the PS3 era, where they were kind of like sat on a high horse going, oh look, we can
hmm
be bourgeois and we can do all of these things that no other people are doing, and we can one up everyone. And that's where they started to lose the fight. It's where they kind of lost that generation, because they thought that they were the bee's knees, and they sort of became inactive and fell behind the curve. So
Well,
this just
yeah,
seems like a weird decision to me.
but PlayStation, I guess I'm going to be like, well, actually, the PS3 ended up selling more consoles than the 360 by the end of the seventh generation.
Sure.
Last of Us we put in a ton of momentum there, but I agree for most of the seventh generation up until maybe the last year or so, PlayStation was 3 was on consensus in the Western Hemisphere, the console viewed as inferior.
Mm-hmm.
That Xbox Live and MW2 and 3 just really hit it
Yeah.
home. But anyway,
It's always interesting watching how the consoles like move and compete against each other, and then you just have like Nintendo just like over there doing their own thing.
yeah, they do their own thing, and whether they crash and burn or succeed, the
Mhm.
Wii, best-selling console of all time, right? DS family of systems sold tons, millions. I think they broke 100 million. And then, the Wii U, which
It did
what,
so well.
13 million total lifetime sales. I think the Switch eclipsed it within the first year, no more than
Yeah.
the
It
second
was
year.
a very short time period.
Oh yeah. Actually, I think they sold more. There's multiple Switch games that have sold more than the Wii U's lifetime sales,
Yeah.
including Smash
Unfortunate.
Ultimate. Yeah. But anyway, what
Yeah.
about? Or actually, I think I'll take this one. So the PlayStation Plus July catalog has been revealed, and the rumor we previously referenced last week's episode turned out to be mostly, if not all, true.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of which, Final Fantasy VII Intergrade and Intermission. It's the first first Final Fantasy VII Remake game in completion is now on the service. Marvel's Avengers, for what's left of that game after Square Enix killed it.
Mm-hmm.
A fair number of Assassin's Creed titles, including Assassin's Creed Rogue, Black Flag, and the Ezio Collection. 2 classic games, No Heroes Allowed, and Loco Roco Midnight Carnival, both of which are PSP titles. And the biggest headliner for this month, which releases on Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, Tuesday, July 19th, correct? Stray,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
highly anticipated indie game where you play as a cat. I'm interested in it. I know Bree can't wait for it. I know Sam's interested in it. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, as soon as we're done here, I'm going to turn my PlayStation and see if I can pre-download anything.
preloaded, yeah.
But I cannot wait for Stray. I'm also really interested in so I didn't have a PSP, and there were a lot of titles that I feel like kind of just died with the PSP. So I'm hoping that we
That's
with
true.
this get a bunch of those
Oh
back,
yeah.
because there were a bunch of games that I really wanted to
Oh
play,
yeah.
but realistically, where I was like in my life and like I just didn't have like funds to buy a PSP. So
Let alone the
Mm-hmm.
Vita, right? Other than Persona 4 Golden, which finally got moved to PC, and now other platforms. There's so many coveted RPGs and games that are stuck on Vita until emulation comes and brings them to the forefront in the next
yeah,
15 years.
Yeah.
well, hopefully we'll get some good stuff.
Do you think that, like, because I've seen a lot of discourse around this when it was like officially unveiled. Obviously, the rumor has been going around for a week or two, but like some people have said that they aren't satisfied with this. Like having, obviously, we knew prior to the revamp coming out that we would be getting monthly editions and refreshes, but now we kind of have a proper definitive indication of what, in terms of the amount of content and what types of content that we're going to get each month. Is this enough for you personally?
So
Like,
people aren't satisfied with which tier. Are we talking about extra and premium, extra, essential? Who's not satisfied?
I guess both, but aiming towards premium if we're counting the classic titles as well.
I never thought premium was worth the asking price. I still don't think it's worth the asking price, which is $120 a year in the US dollars, because the PS3, basically the only thing you're getting from moving from PS Plus Extra to PS Plus Premium is this classic catalog of games, many of which are already available for purchase on the cheap on PSN. The PS3 games are streaming only, where if you have internet with unreliable ping or just bad internet, you can't experience the games well. It'll be very laggy. So until PS3 games go native on a native emulator, I don't think premium will be worth the price, unless Sony just like artificially excludes games from their extra tier and brings them to premium, kind of forcing it, which I wouldn't like, but it would make you look at premium as more of a impressive option as a consumer. But what do you guys think?
I think like the thing is that they're like, they really are marketing like premium as like a premium, if that makes sense. Like I understand that it's like not necessarily worth it, but it's like more about like it's, I think it's just that little last extra step on top of everything else, rather than like I have to have this kind of thing. So hopefully they don't start hiding titles behind that, because so far I've been really impressed with like the way that everything's like kind of layered, or at least like maybe I'm just happy with like my tier. I don't know. I think like as far as like where they are with like the lineup, I think that they are really like coming out with a bang with like brand new title coming out, Stray. Like that's not like a small title. Like I would have spent $100 to get that game, right?
I'd call that, even though I guess it's categorized as an indie game, I think it's borderline AA.
Yeah.
If not AA, or a triple I, as I've heard some people say before.
It definitely feels like that. So I think that's like, let alone like Final Fantasy VII, which is like not everybody, but a lot of people love. So
yeah.
I think it's weird. Like it's kind of doing two things at once, where all of the titles, bar the classic ones, are reinforcing that extra is the place to be. Like, because you are getting the bulk of that. They are all, with maybe the exception of Avengers, excellent titles or good times. But I think at the same time, it's weirdly like putting people off of getting premium even more. Because, you know, Bree said it, like the only reason that people really want to go to premium is for the classic titles. But like, as someone who is currently on premium, just because I wanted to try it out, and I'm probably going to dip down, especially now that I know that there's not really anything of substance coming in that justifies the difference between extra and premium.
So what would make you stay then, just out of curiosity?
I just think like it's cool that we are getting a couple of PSP titles, but I think that I would not necessarily expect the same level of consistency from that extra level, you know, the Stray, Final Fantasy VII, Marvel's Avengers, because that isn't, you can't maintain that in terms of a classic catalog for so long. You can do it for a few months potentially, but eventually the quality and the amount are going to drop off. I was maybe just expecting a little bit more, like maybe another couple of PS1 titles, maybe a PS2 title, and 4 or 5 PS3 titles. Again, streaming only, obviously, for PS3, but I think only 2 classic games to throw into the catalog. That anybody that wasn't on premium already looks at that, unless No Heroes Allowed and Loco Roco Midnight Carnival happens to be their favorite game of all time, which I doubt. That's not going to encourage them to tier up, where typically, even though you want to lure most people to the extra tier, you probably still want to try and bait the people that might go the extra step to take the plunge into premium, and I don't think that's going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
think-
maybe they're holding titles for the holiday and then offer a discount around November, December. That's
Potentially, yeah.
But
That's true.
that's also for a streaming service. I'm sorry, for a subscription service. I think you can make a strong argument that's bad practice. The nice part about subscription services is you get things come in a timely manner, and new incentives to keep your subscription are constantly coming out. I don't think the waiting to put your games in the holiday model. I think that system works a lot worse in a subscription model than a standalone game release model. But,
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost like for the premium, like I wonder like if they have plans, like they're like, oh, this is gonna be the thing that gets everybody and it just wasn't ready yet. But like they didn't want to delay the whole thing because of that. You know what I mean? Like maybe they were like, everything is ready besides like these couple of things. I don't know. Like I get what you guys are saying, like, because I have no desire to go to premium. Like there's nothing. There's like a couple things that I'm like, it would be interesting, but like nothing that I'm like, I have to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it might also just be biting the bullet for now, in that they're developing behind the scenes infrastructure in place to offer you truly a more compelling package on the aggregate for consumers on the premium tier. They just accepted, kind of like Xbox has to an extent with their first party titles down the pipeline, that they need more time in the oven, and they're just gonna ride things out for now until they've reached that finishing point. That could be another player. That's what I hope is the reason why.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, I definitely like, I hope like for premium subscribers, I hope that, but as a not premium subscriber, like I want to keep getting the rewards instead, you know, so that way I don't have to pay more money. But
and also looking across the pond at Xbox, like when Game Pass first came out, it had a few stumbling blocks.
Oh yeah, and it wasn't day and date.
Exactly. And also like backwards compatibility didn't come straight away. So I think like, yes, it's cool that as soon as this service is launched, we got access to a very small classic catalog. But even with that context, it still doesn't change the fact that this kind of update for the classic catalog is still a little bit underwhelming overall.
Yeah, so maybe this really is truly just like an infrastructure move.
Yeah.
Not like a pure premium experience yet.
Yeah. Yep. So with that said, now we're going to move on to our next segment of the show, which was previously in the first couple episodes called Topic of the Show, but I kind of made the audible to change the name because I don't want to be as close to Kind of Funny as that would suggest. So we renamed this extra segment where we talk about whatever we want and field your questions in Limitless. Fitting with, pun intended, fitting with the name of our podcast. Get that SEO. Kevin gets on my ass about SEO. But so, yeah. And our first on this segment our first topic in Limitless is, with these new additions from July, as we just talked about, announced to PlayStation Plus, what modern or classic titles would be our dream additions to the service, and why?
I can't not say Mort the Chicken, right? Like,
no, do it. Do it. Let's see it. Do it.
So after we talked about it, I genuinely, I went back. I think I may have said something last week, but I went back and watched the opening cutscenes and stuff. And there's so much good stuff in there. They're like, should we panic? They're doing a news segment. He's like, should we panic? And they flips to the doctor, and the doctor's like, we're chickens. We should definitely panic. What? Yeah. I love that game. It's so funny.
Rose tinted glasses. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, so I want to see that.
Okay.
That's where I'm at.
I'm going to go with a bit of a ambiguous answer, and I think maybe kind of what I was indicating earlier but didn't say was it's super weird that before this subscription service relaunched, there were far more classic titles available for purchase on the PlayStation Store, and since this revamp, they've disappeared. Even stuff you would expect to be there, like a lot of first-party stuff, has just vanished. Like the old Resistance titles from Insomniac, or the infamous games from Sucker Punch. Those kind of things are, I would have thought, auto includes.
Yeah.
At least on the extra tier, maybe not premium because they aren't necessarily PS2 titles or backwards. But like, it's just weird that they aren't there. And I think that those kind of things, even though they aren't going to be in the premium tier, to get people to subscribe to extra, which is clearly what they're gunning for at the minute, those sort of things I think should be there. And I can't see a reason why they wouldn't have been there already.
There may be something in like the code or something that's preventing the game from being added. There's always like speaking just from like my having like a computer science minor experience, there's some weird bugs where it's like, why is this interfering? I think like there could be something like that they just have to take time to work out, or there could be titles, like especially like older titles, that maybe there's like remakes in the distance that they just can't say anything about, or like even something like a Spyro collection specifically for like Resistance or something like that. So there's probably a lot of those kinds of things coming too, because those are making tons of money.
I don't know if Spyro. I don't think Sony has the rights to release the original Spyro games, because now it's owned by Activision, which is owned by Microsoft.
So, yeah, I was just more in just like referencing like that, like they redid like the first 3-4 games and like did like a graphical upgrade and stuff like that. So yeah. So I think like I'm wondering like how many of those games are in the works that they can't talk about because they don't want to, like, if they release it now and then like in a year there's like a remake, it's like, well, why did you do this kind of thing? Because then you'll just spend more money. But
yeah, it depends. Yeah, I think there really aren't any. My only desire for the service is native PS3 titles on the PlayStation 5. I've said it before, and I've said it again. That's the only glaring issue I have with their service right now. So if that takes hold, that's good enough for me.
Honestly, like Stray being on there was like my dream, and like we've already achieved it. So
you would have bought it on PC anyway.
Yeah, no, I would have. I would have spent so much money on that. If they were like, "Yeah, this is $100 game," I would have been like, "Yes, of course."
Yes, it's $100 game. Yeah.
So
yeah. And with the acquisitions of both Bungie and Haven finalized, and their clear focus on multiplayer titles going forward, what collaboration would most excite you? More specifically, which PlayStation IP would you like to see get a big multiplayer treatment? I think I would like to. This is a little cheating. I just really like to see what the new factions is in Last of Us. I really want to check it out. And I know we're going to see it get the multiplayer treatment, but the fact that we haven't had an update since 2013 or 2014 with Last of Us Remastered on factions makes me very, very needy to see what the new edition is.
Do you think it's going to have a battle royale?
It might. I wouldn't bank on it. That's all I'm going to say. They could add it post-launch. They could add something really interesting where, I wouldn't say interesting, but topical, where everyone, it becomes it's not necessarily a battle royale, but it's almost last man standing, where everyone else is infected and there's one player who's not infected and they are souped up with a lot of weapons, increased health,
interesting,
powerful melee moves, and everyone's trying to hoard this one survivor and see who wins. Maybe something like that. I think that's, or they could just literally do a battle royale and just do that. But I think the first way I said would make it topical for how a zombie apocalypse would operate on a battle royale scale.
I think I And it's kind of like a cliche answer, I suppose, because a lot of people have said it since, the games have come out. But something in Insomniac's Marvel universe, I would like to see. Obviously, I don't think that Spider-Man 2 is going to have co-op mode. I don't think that is going to be a thing. It's speculative at the minute for a lot of people, but I don't think it's going to happen. Maybe, again, like you said, Taylor, for factions, maybe it's something that they could do post-launch, but I think that the focus is going to be single player. Maybe, we know Wolverine's coming, maybe something like an X-Men title. I mean, I know technically we have no idea that Insomniac is going to do more Marvel games after Wolverine. They will, obviously. But maybe something like that. Maybe, or Fantastic Four, something where you can team up with friends and play with that kind of quality and visual fidelity would be really awesome for me, I think.
Yeah. For me, I feel like I just don't really play multiplayer games that much.
Yeah, I don't really
I
either.
play.
Well, except for Smash. That's a lie. I play Smash.
Caught yourself in a lie.
Yeah.
I mean, I play a lot of Final Fantasy 14, and that's already on the PlayStation. I don't recommend it on the PlayStation. I'm so sorry, but like, I feel like you need an MMO mouse for that game. You can play it. It's just there's so many buttons, and it's just there's a lot of abilities, and it already fills up my entire MMO mouse like 2 or 3 times with all the abilities. So it's just not realistic on a controller.
Damn.
Or at least for me, it's not. I could never figure it out. So that's already on there. And then like League of Legends is the other multiplayer game that I play, and again, I wouldn't recommend that on PlayStation. I mean, I wouldn't recommend that anywhere, to be honest, but that's just so those are like the only games that I really am interested in. I do love first person shooters, but I'm so bad at them that I like feel guilty when I play with people because it's almost like I'm dragging everybody down. So I don't really play multiplayer games. I think the only thing that I really enjoyed, this is so random. I really enjoyed the Assassin's Creed multiplayer.
Which one?
I want to say it was
Brotherhood, yeah. It added a pretty major multiplayer aspect to it, so it probably was.
Yeah, so I just because I remember like you have to like hide among the crowd of like everybody looking the same as you kind of thing. And I was so good at that. I was legitimately like so good at that. No one could ever find me. So
Maybe you should play Dead by Daylight.
yeah, maybe. So maybe something fun like that. But that's like such a random multiplayer mode that like I don't know how they'd even really do like a full, I don't know. Do like a hide and seek game. I don't know.
Maybe. Interesting. Okay. And Ethan, aka White Sea Deer from Project X Talk, our fellow podcast on Save the Game Media, go check them out, submitted a question. He says, with recent sales figures of Xbox increasing in Japan and Microsoft pulling larger Japanese IPs like Persona, do you think Sony will respond in any way, such as consolidation? Or do you think Sony is confident on their hold on the Japanese and JRP market? What do you think they should do, if anything? So I think Sony needs to do nothing. Sony is an originally Japanese company, still a Japanese company, with their company headquarters in Japan. They make a variety of not just PlayStations, but televisions and video equipment, and they own the Blu-ray format. They have a huge, in context of all of media, they have a huge presence in Japan and Japanese merchandise. And then onto the game market, most of the critically acclaimed JRPGs as of recent that aren't Switch exclusives were available on the PlayStation platform. Things that were breakout hits like a Persona 5 was, enormous, completely eclipsed Shin Megami Tensei in popularity, and that was a PlayStation 3, 4 exclusive, and they had that cornered. Final Fantasy, they also have from Square. Between Final Fantasy and Persona, those are the major JRPGs I think of, and Sony has their hands on them. And I don't think. Oh, and also Bloodborne. an action JRPG they have a preference with from software. I really don't think Sony has anything they need to brush up on when it comes to their hold on Japanese market or JRPGs. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean the thing is like it's not like one, like it doesn't have to necessarily be like a competition, but
Well, it is.
yeah.
But in the Japanese market, in my opinion, it's almost non-competition because Microsoft does hysterically poorly in Japan.
Yeah, it's like I think that like Microsoft can make their moves, but you're right, like Sony has like a chokehold, and as long as they don't like absolutely like drop the ball, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, I agree with you, Taylor, that they don't need to do anything. I don't think that Microsoft/Xbox is ever going to have a higher majority in the Japanese market.
Right. Although landing Kojima makes you raise your eyebrow, but I still agree on the whole. Yeah.
Yeah, like and even with that, I think that Kojima, and it was because of toxic Sony fanboys that he made this statement, but they did come out and say that even though they are collaborating with Microsoft at the minute, they still have a very strong relationship with SIE. And you kind of have to the people that were being really vitriolic that Kojima's gone to Microsoft. Don't forget that Sony is the team that essentially saved Kojima. Like Kojima was trying to get something up off the ground, and Sony was the one that bit the bullet straight away and just entered a partnership and got Kojima Productions off the ground. Essentially, gave Decima from Guerrilla to Kojima, gave him his engine that he works with. So I don't think that's ever going to change again, unless Sony does something stupid to spoil that relationship. I still think that Kojima is going to have as strong a relationship with Sony as he always has done. The only thing, I don't think that they should do anything or necessarily have to. The only thing I could see Sony doing, and we would never know if this was actively in response to Microsoft gaining a bit of a foothold in Japan, would be to acquire Square. I think that's probably likely at some point. I think it's more a question of when as opposed to if. My personal opinion, I think it's odd that they shed off, like Eidos Montreal and Crystal Dynamics and whatnot. Yes, they kind of lost their way as studios recently, but I still think that they are excellent and talented. But if they are leaning themselves down for an acquisition, then Sony is the most likely candidate.
That's why I think they would get them off their plate. It makes an acquisition much more straightforward. Where Square manages more Japanese only properties rather than Eidos Montreal, Crystal Dynamics, etc. But
the only thing that maybe the only thing that kind of baffles me with that, obviously it makes sense from a business decision, but for Sony wanting to be like the home of AAA single player, having things like, Tomb Raider and Deus Ex and whatnot under their portfolio, I would have thought would have been really enticing to them. But obviously, like we say, logistically, it's far easier if they shed that weight. And it still keeps the Japanese JRPG stuff with Square, and therefore Sony. So,
gotcha. What do you think, Brie?
Honestly, it's really like one. I think man, it's hard. Obviously, I'm not speaking very much English right now, but I mean, I do agree on the shedding the weight, but it's just like.
Sorry, you're talking about the Square acquisition.
Yeah, specifically, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's hard because I just feel like Square is so big that they don't need it.
What about moving away from Square, about Sony's greater presence in Japan, the JRPG market? Do you think they need to do anything?
No, I really don't.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to what I was saying earlier, unless they absolutely drop the ball, there's no reason for them to really dig in deeper. I mean, they can always keep working, and I'm sure that they always have stuff moving and like pieces that we have no idea are going on. But I don't think that they necessarily need to like panic and like, let's figure everything out right now. Like, I don't know. I just don't think that it's in the realm of like competition. I
Yeah.
guess.
Well, we're pretty unified on that front, Ethan. So take that
Take
as
that,
you will.
Ethan.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, you breathe oxygen and you're featherless and bipedal. So screw you. And I also wanted to talk to you again, Ethan, if you're listening, or Kevin. So on Thursday in Project X Talk, most of your guys' discussion was about physical versus digital media. This came about looking at Ubisoft taking away past DLC access for legacy owners of the original Assassin's Creed titles. And I think you guys had a really good discussion, but about this interplay between physical and digital goods. But I think you guys missed, in terms of game preservation and otherwise, a key point here, which is emulation when it comes to accessing these titles. Just like addressing it. I don't think you guys addressed it, and I feel like it's a pretty substantial player when it comes to looking at a transition between physical and digital goods. Granted, the opportunity for emulation is one of privilege. You need to have, if you're emulating a system that's more modern than, let's say, an N64 or even a PS1, you have to have a relatively decent computer setup. And moving forward the next 10 to 15 years, what emulating PS3 and kind of GameCube Wii is to now might be those in a decade's or more's time. And I just thought that, I don't know, I thought you guys should have talked about it, and I feel like it's important to address in preserving goods, even though you can access it when you were a little kid. If you, having your first world privilege, have the means to do so on a PC, I think that takes a lot of the brunt of the blow away. Now, of course, this would be void if you don't have that privilege and you're living on very little internet or a bad computer or both, or are uncomfortable with legally acquiring your old games, of course. No, not winking here. I don't know. I think that brunts the blow a bit of a digital future, but that was just kind of a soapbox I wanted to address. So I'm looking forward to your response, Kevin, Ethan, or if you don't want to, it's okay. You can accept defeat.
Yeah.
But,
I was going to say, just don't respond and
just don't respond. Yeah.
just
What,
lose.
what do you think, Bree and Sam? Actually, I don't know. I don't know if you guys have a stake in the conversation. I just put out there what I put out there.
I don't know if I have like a huge stake in the conversation. I almost like was while you were like talking about it, almost having like an argument with myself where it's like, well, I do prefer digital because like the thing is that physical can also like discs can go bad, like cartridges can go bad, stuff like that. It doesn't really necessarily guarantee anything. Then the same way that like digital, like they can erase the servers, erase the game.
Right. Modern day digital and physical, unless it's like Switch games where the whole game's on the cartridge and it's actually less space to use a cartridge than it is to download a Switch game digitally. That's the only case where modern physical media offers you a distinct advantage in operating the game.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking like because you specifically said like a note on like preserving games, and I think that that's like something that I've always been like interested in, like being able to go back to things. But I mean, as far as like I do think that they definitely missed out on the emulation point. I think that that's a huge point.
Yeah, Kevin, Ethan. Yeah.
Take that.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I really think, I mean, I have firmly planted myself with Ethan a couple of times now, where I do prefer physical. One, just because I'm a bit of a collector, I like having a physical thing that I can hold and say I own this. I agree with Bree that it's technically just as susceptible to damage and malfunction as digital.
But I think there's something about agency is the word, where you have agency over the product that you have. You have the product.
Yeah.
If you disconnect your system from the internet.
I am also, you'll be glad to hear, Taylor, also with you on the emulation point. I think I think it's interesting. Like I also kind of correlate it. It's obviously different, but tangentially to something like xCloud on Xbox, where it's a really great idea. Emulation, I'm speaking here, and xCloud. I just don't think we're quite there yet, and that's for a number of different reasons. But I think that we should be there, and hopefully, we will be there where
Right. On modern
emulation
consoles.
is easy and commonplace, and that is
Right.
how we preserve games. That kind of thing. I think it's coming. Hopefully,
Well, you're already
um,
seeing it being preserved in like especially old Nintendo games like Switch Online,
mhm.
NES, SNES, Atari. Talk about Atari Flashback. I think emulation is already being standardized. There's and has been. There's just a lag time from
Yeah.
when the system is contemporary to how many years past its lifetime its lifetime's end. And usually that's on the order of 10 to 15 years, but as our systems get more complex, it might not be unreasonable to assume that the lag time between accessible emulation to that system also gets proportionally longer. But we'll
Yeah,
Mhm.
see.
they also could be like accounting for that in like the coding as well, because I don't know, like when they're like making like those older games, like if they were even like thinking like, oh, there's going to be more consoles and they will someday want to come back and play these games kind of
I
thing.
I wouldn't think so, but maybe it might make their code more modular for
Yeah,
modification, not
I don't
necessarily.
think that they're necessarily like accommodating for it, like specifically building in for like playing later, but I'm saying like as the code gets like more simple and like easy and just like I don't know, it's like it's more coding in that there's more data in the game, but it's like less complex because the like coding languages have kind of shifted with time and become
Right, I see what you're
easier.
saying. Getting more high level
Yeah.
languages in there, like
Mhm.
Unity and otherwise, and engines that we can have like the Unreal Engine rather than building everything from the ground up and making your soundtrack on the inside the back of an NES cartridge and nothing but MIDI.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We have
We
maybe
we have
evolved
some tools.
just a
Yeah.
tiny bit from there.
Yeah.
Just tiny bit. Also, I do want to like not that I want to start any fights, but like also like I appreciate physical, but to the point where like you're like importing games from other countries just to have the physical
Hey,
copy.
Ethan just imported Klonoa for the
I know that's
Xbox.
why I'm saying something. I'm like, that was like perhaps a little bit too much.
I imported
Oh
Yeah.
Travis
no.
Strikes Again on Switch physical just to trade it in because I wasn't such a big fan of it. I'm a pretty big physical guy for Nintendo, but outside of that, I was a big physical guy on PS4. But on
Mm.
PS5, I don't have one physical PS5 game,
Wow.
but just back compat PS4 games. And my God of War Steelbook that has a game disc in it,
I
Sony.
know.
But yeah, no PC physical games, unfortunately, guys. No big
Mm.
box Quake from 1998.
I
That's a
don't even
little past
have
my
a
time.
way to play physical games on
On your
my
PC, if you
PC.
get a uh, USB disc player, and then plug it
Oh.
into my USB port, and then you put it in the disc player, and then it could spin up on your PC.
Huh.
Or I could just buy it on Steam or acquire it completely legally
Yeah,
outside of
that
Steam.
kind of reminds me of when Apple released the cords that you can attach to your
Oh
AirPods so that they don't get lost. It's like,
Oh
okay,
my
so there's something that was standardized a while back, and now you've taken it off, split it apart, made it like essentially twice as expensive in the process. Like having a USB disk drive just sounds weird to me. It sounds wrong.
yeah.
Mhm.
Sorry. I just like I specifically my aunt has like issues with her headphones and so that just cracked me up. She like uses her headphones to find her phone in her purse.
That's hilarious.
And so like my dad gifted her like the AirPods and she like got those cords cuz she didn't want to lose her phone in her purse
She's also
cuz who
probably
knows
a
where it would
little
go if
older,
it was in your purse.
right? Like my mom's purse is like, or she calls it her pocketbook, is a bottomless pit. She
So
she
cute.
like has one time she was looking for a phone and she found a loose spoon in there. I'm like, Mom, are you shooting up? Why is there a spoon in your purse, your pocketbook? And she was like, I don't know, Taylor. Sometimes you need a salad and I have some spare silverware just lying around. It's like someone who puts a pizza in their front pocket. I don't know, slice of pizza. Like,
Hmm.
want some?
Maybe I'll just like start putting like Lunchables in my purse or something. That
Oh
sounds
yeah,
like a good
small
time.
enough.
Yeah, it is. I got a new purse. I won't show you. It's all the way over there. But I got
Okay,
a new purse. Definitely big enough for Lunchables because I got it. It's big
there you
enough
go.
for books,
Cool,
just in case.
awesome. Well, with that said, I think we're gonna wrap the show up. I think this has been a good time, and
Always.
yeah, and thank you so much, listeners, for checking us out. And you can find us on youtube.com at Save the Game Media, patreon.com/Save the Game Media, our Discord, and everywhere else. Links will be in the show notes. And once again, thank you to our patrons, Alpaca Tom, Bucky Blue, and Hopple. And where can people find you, Sam and Bree?
You can find me on Twitter at Sam Heaney. That's Heaney.
You can find me pretty much anywhere at Fabulist, Fabulist, Brianna, Breanna.
Cool. And you can find me on Save the Game Media Discord. And I don't have Twitter because I don't like it. But yeah,
Good for you.
thanks, man. With that said, until next time, have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye.
Peace.